This episode is brought to you by Microseed. Microseed engraves your entire Bitcoin seed phrase onto fireproof, waterproof steel, or titanium. Small enough to fit in your palm, strong enough to last a lifetime. It's durable, easy to hide, and built for secure storage.
If your seed phrase is still on paper, it's time to upgrade and take self-custody to the next level. Because not your keys, not your coins. Go to microseed.io and use code LUNA, LUNA, for a discount, or check the link in the description below.
So then when we started the podcast, it was like, oh my God, because like we're kind of like, risk takers in the sense of like the way that we sometimes do things is not really a way that I would tell everyone to do things. Cause like we're just kind of like jump onto something and just like we'll figure it out. But I think that like it worked when it came to Bitcoin because we didn't think about it. We're just like, oh, this makes sense. We jumped on and it was just like, when you think about like just taking risk and, just with your life, you really have to like kind of jump out there. And it's kind of like what you just said, like, who cares? Like, we're all going to die. Don't worry about what someone thinks. Just jump out there and do it.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
really
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Moon with the Lunas podcast. The Bitcoin price today is 75,600. Today we have a very special guest. Fatima, aka Tima, is half of the Jump Out Girls duo. Jump Out Girls represents taking chances and jumping out there to reach your goals. What started out as a podcast to educate everyday people about money and wealth ended up leading to the conclusion that true freedom and wealth can be most easily obtained with Bitcoin. I love that, Tima. We're so happy to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Let's
I
go.
love how the X community brought us together,
Yes.
and it's so fun to be able to have a female mind on our
Yes.
podcast too.
Yes.
I think that's
Yes.
so important. Yeah. I know. I was telling him, I'm like, we need more women on here because I'm like, I need to hear from the other side of,
Here for the
like,
ladies.
yeah, I need to hear from
Yeah.
the ladies. So, but yeah, I've obviously listened a little bit to some of your podcasts
Mhm,
also, and just try
mhm.
to get a little bit, a better understanding of what you guys stand for.
Right.
And I just have loved hearing how authentic and I believe it's your cousin, right?
It's my cousin. Yeah.
Yeah, how authentic you guys are, and just how, you are really wanting to bring financial freedom awareness
Mhm.
to everybody,
Yeah.
especially women, I think, who are listening into your podcast. So,
Mm.
yeah, tell us a little bit about, kind of your story, how you guys started out, and yeah, kind of how Bitcoin stood out to you guys.
Yeah. So like eventually like essentially what started out as just us like talking, you talk like your cousins really become like your sisters, your siblings, especially your first cousins. And, we were having all these conversations about money, especially during like the lockdown period. It really was a time for our family to really just truly kind of like settle down, look at kind of where we were, where we wanted to be, what we didn't know. And we were starting to hear like a lot of buzzwords, a little catchphrases, and we like things that we've never heard in school. So, um, what started off as just us casually talking eventually led to us starting this podcast. And, as you kind of go through like this, I want to say this transformation or like, it's like a transformation out of like what your mind originally thought was right in terms of like fiat and retirement and
Right.
money itself. I still stand behind the stuff that we've talked about, like just with like credit and debt and things like that. But I do feel that like for the everyday person, we feel that just like Bitcoin is just the easiest way to get there. So it's just, I think that just like overall, just these conversations that we had, it was just like a big part of us just to want to like speak it simply and just so that everyday people could understand us. Because sometimes I think like when we first started hearing about Bitcoin, it wasn't confusing because of the language. It was confusing in terms of like how people explained it. So we just wanted it just to make it like super simple, super easy, like just like you're talking to your sister, you're talking to your cousin, you're talking to your aunt, where it's
Yeah.
not like so technical. And I think that was like the easiest thing. And then just being able just to talk to the everyday person because it's easy for us to talk about Bitcoin, right? Like we know about it, we're into it, but it's just like it's harder to talk to someone who's never heard about it, right? It's harder to
Yeah.
talk to someone who's not interested. It's
Yeah.
harder to talk to someone who thinks it's a scam. So it's just like with those people, we just wanted to talk in ways that they kind of could relate just to an everyday explanation.
Mhm. No,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
that is
Yeah.
so good, and yeah, they don't teach us anything in school, Tina.
No,
They don't teach
no,
us anything.
no.
They're just like and it's just crazy because there's so many financial instruments, kinda like what you were talking about.
Right.
It's so hard for, like, you to dive in and, like, learn it because there's, like,
Yeah.
Roth, there's Roth IRAs, there's
Yes.
401ks, there's annuities, there's
Yeah.
all of the there's, universal life policies. So
Right.
all of these policies I mean, all of these policies, all of these, like, things come into play, and then they all have, like, their niche. They all have, like, their
Yes.
one thing where it's just how does someone even grip this? And then, like, they're like, "I
Yeah.
have to go to work, and I have to
Yes.
pay my bills," right? It's
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
no, so it's so easy to, like, just get mixed in all that, and so, I don't know, I just think, like and then there's Bitcoin, right? It's like, "Wait,
Yeah.
buy and hold? That's it? Like, that's all I gotta do? Like, what?"
That's
You
simple,
know?
right?
And so, it's like, for the everyday person that's like, you wanna make it real easy for you,
Yeah.
like a hot dog easy, like, dude, just
Right.
buy it and hold it, and, like,
Yeah.
just go live your life, you know?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
Bitcoin's such a blessing to so many people and they don't even know it yet. And that's another
No.
reason why we started this. Like, how can we spread the
Mhm.
message? How can we talk to cool
Mhm.
people? How do we like make things easy for people? And because
Yeah.
there's no financial literacy.
No.
Everyone's just glossing through life.
Right.
There's like
Yep.
just sleepwalking through life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I
Yeah.
don't know. I
And I
from
think
that.
and, also too, just like in terms of like, my journey, my cousin's journey, it's like you get this formal education, right? And I say formal education. And, and it's not that I'm against education, right? I think, like it serves a purpose, like if you
Yeah.
want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, obviously you have to go through formal education. But I think what's happened like over generations in time is that it's just go to college. That's all they say. Go to
Mhm.
you must
Yeah.
go to college, right? And
Yeah.
it's just like, then what, right? And then go to college and pay how much? Go to college and what expenses come up while you're in college. And then it's also like me and my cousin and I, we grew up in like generational homes and like we now also our children are growing up in generational homes. So it's
Mhm.
like you don't really have that anymore where it's like families are helping families and we're working together, we're living together, we're growing together. It's just this big push of just like when you're 18, get out the house, go to school,
Yeah.
get a job, and then oh by the way, if you don't go to school for free, you have to pay these student loans back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just like you're in this constant um hamster like rolling
Hamster
cycle.
wheel.
Yeah, hamster where it's just like spinning, spinning, spinning. And when we found out about Bitcoin, it was just like, "Oh my god." Okay, so funny story. So when we first found out about Bitcoin, her brother, which is like my brother, he was like, "Okay, we all heard about it separately, differently."
Okay.
So, which is nice because as a family, it's like it's nice when you have like your family's also into it. And and I love my Twitter friends, but it's nothing like to have that face to
No.
face, "Hey, I
Face-to-face
can call you
conversation.
up."
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
like, kinda how you guys are, like, husband and wife,
Yeah.
like, I feel like I orange pilled my husband, right? So
Yeah.
but so my brother was just like, "Hey, listen, all right, we all know about it, but now you guys need to learn about, like, money itself." So he was like, "Go read, Creature from Jekyll Island." So my
Mm.
cousin and I, we would read like, we would have, like, a setup where we would read a chapter a week, and it was just like, I wish we would record ourselves reading it because we literally would be screaming, like, "What? Oh
Yeah.
my god. This
Yeah.
is crazy. This doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense. Like, they did what? They did what
Yeah.
happened in what year?" And it's just like, it's mind-blowing because none of this was taught in school.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Oh, yeah.
know.
There's no way.
I know.
There's no way.
No, they don't want you to know that. And that's why, like, I really love you guys and I really like what you're standing for just because, like, with the homeschool route and just kind of like, and again, I'm not saying that if you're in school that it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that schools and the way that they're setting up now, especially depending on what part of the world you're in, like on the
Mhm.
East Coast, the West Coast, and especially what state you're in, that also matters.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that they're teaching is just like, what? Like
Yeah.
who?
Nonsense.
Long
Yeah.
It's
division?
what?
What?
Like I don't know. Like my daughter and I, we do a lot of like story times in the library, and it's just like, of course, like after you have a child, you start paying attention to stuff that you didn't really pay attention to before.
Totally. Totally.
And it was just like I would be in the library and I'd be like, what? Why is this book in this section for this
Right.
age? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Mhm.
what are we doing here right now? So, um, yeah, I don't really like the idea of not being able to like objectively think and not being able to teach thinkers and just the agenda that I feel like that is going on, in my opinion, in the education system.
Totally,
Oh, yeah.
totally. I mean, they're just trying to streamline, our kids,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I mean, unless you're working in maybe like a private school, you have a little bit
Right.
more flexibility that you can,
Right.
navigate. But not everyone's fortunate enough, especially in
Yeah.
this economy, to put their kids
Mhm.
in a private education. So I'm like, I mean, even for us, like that would be the only other option really that I feel comfortable doing, even though it's not perfect. Again, not a perfect situation.
Right.
It's not me,
Yeah.
but but it's if we had to navigate that like for some reason, then like that would be the choice that we would make. But still, it's just still really hard to really put your trust in some situations where you're like,
Mhm.
I don't know,
Mhm.
even for me, it's been really eye-opening on my end as a like being in the homeschool world too. It's
Right.
like, I go to story times or we'll go to like public places and I'm like, there's something off here. You start
Mhm.
paying attention to certain things and the way people are talking and I'm like, yeah, no, we don't need to be here
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
And let's go.
Yeah.
Like that
And
was,
I think it's also kinda interesting in the sense of, like, you can kinda pick up on, I would say, the thinkers, like so for example, my daughter was in this swim class called, ISR. So it
Mhm.
just basically taught her, like, as an infant, if she ever to fall in the water, like, what to do. And her
Mhm.
swim instructor she ended up getting pregnant, and right before she, like, took her leave, I don't like to ask certain questions because I'm not sure because I feel like certain questions either put me in, like, a certain category or it makes, like, the other person feel like, "Oh, what is she?" Is she one of those conspiracy theorist type people, right?
Yeah.
But I happened to ask the swim instructor, I was just like, "Hey, so, like, are you going to," and I was just naming the local hospitals, and she was like, "No, I'm having a home birth," and I was like, "What?" I said, "I did too." And she was like, "You know what?" She said, "I could tell." And I was like, "Really?" She was like, "Yeah." She was just like the interaction and just kinda like watching your daughter and just like just her focus and just how she was, I could
Mhm.
just tell the difference just with like how it is a difference when you have the ability to really spend more time with your child
Yes.
versus like when they're, not so much like daycare or like school, but there's a difference. So it was just like we kind of went down this rabbit hole and I was just like, oh, if she were to say she was into Bitcoin, I would fall out. But we didn't get that far.
You're like, "Oh, did we just become best friends?"
Are you
Yeah.
do you know about Bitcoin?
Yeah. I think you know what though, Tima? I think that like, you know, we like kind of are a little bit standoffish and a little bit shy when it comes to like, actually like our
Yeah,
true values, right? Because we're like
yeah,
now everyone's
yeah,
super soft.
Mm.
So
yes,
but I always think like just own it, right? Like just
yeah,
own it.
yeah,
And then like at the end of the day, like what are we gonna like people please the swim
It's
instructor?
true.
Like like
yes,
at the end of the day, like, hope that she, I don't know. I
right,
just think we really need to push through like this, this mental block where, hey, let's just go live our life, right? And people
right,
either will adjust to it and go from there.
Mhm.
Because we're at the end of the day, we're all gonna die, right? And no one's
yeah,
gonna remember like, hey, XYZ, right? I don't know.
right,
Sometimes we have to just be blunt like
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
so no, thanks for sharing that. I'm super interested though too, is like where did this whole Jump Girls come out of too? Like where did this whole thought
okay,
process like, hey, let's just jump onto this podcast and like
yeah,
me and you cousin, like
yeah.
where did this come from?
So it's a story. So, my cousin, she at the time she was getting married, and we were all home, and I had like an engagement party for with all of our other cousins. So we went out, and it was like one of those like epic nights out, right? Like, so we're everywhere. Like, we're hitting up all of our old spots, we're hitting up new spots. And at the time, she had bought me like these really cute black and gold heels, like when I was like wearing stuff like that. So
Yeah.
heels matter in this story, okay?
Okay.
So we go out, and then the night's over, and everybody's, it's what you think. Like, some people are throwing up on one side, like somebody's telling someone to go over here. Like, it wasn't a disaster. It was actually really fun.
Yeah.
But we lost somebody, so we couldn't find one of our other cousins. So I think we were all like in a like a garage. So I took off my heels, and I was like, "Hey, my feet are hurting, but I'm gonna take them off so we can go look for this person." And I was like, "Maine, make sure you get my shoes because I'm gonna go down here to try to see if they're on this other level." So needless to say, she never got my shoes, right? So she never got my shoes, but she's like, "Jump in the car. Everybody jump in the car. We got to go find, our other cousin." So we jump in the car, and then it was just like, that night we were like, "Oh, we're the jump out girls."
How
Oh,
funny.
nice.
But then,
Nice.
so then when we started the podcast, it was like, oh my God, because like we're kind of like, risk takers in the sense of like the way that we sometimes do things is not really a way that I would tell everyone to do things. Cause like we're
Yeah.
just kind of like jump onto something and just be like, we'll figure it out. But I think that like it worked when it came to Bitcoin because we didn't think about it. We're just like, oh, this makes sense. We
Mm,
jumped on, and then it was just like, when you think about like just taking risk and, just with your life, you really have to like kind of jump out there. And it's kind of like what you just said, like, who cares? Like, we're all gonna die, don't worry
mhm.
about what someone thinks. Just jump out there and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
No,
love
Yeah.
that.
that's a great
Yeah.
story. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that.
That's really
And then
funny.
you're like, "Well, let's just jump into this podcast as
Yes.
well, and then go
Yeah.
from there."
Now,
That's
her husband did this because like, so we were, her brother was like, "Hey, we keep talking about this. Let's just start recording." And we were like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, whatever." The next day, I lie to you not, Maine's husband bought a camera, he bought chairs, and he was like, "Go record." And I was like, what? What? I
yeah.
can't. We can't." And like
Yeah.
we were forced to like, another little catchphrase of ours is like, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
And it was
Yeah.
so uncomfortable to do this. Like, people think
Yeah.
this is not easy, like,
No.
Yeah.
I hate to hear my voice. I hate to like, all these different nuances that come with like recording. But it was just like, once we started doing it, you get used to it. It's like, oh, it becomes comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so we were kind of forced to jump out there, but we did jump out there.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's very true. You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable many
Mhm.
times. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just part of life. And
Yeah.
like it's like skills that you want to like teach your kids too. Like, hey, we're
Right.
gonna be in uncomfortable situations sometimes, but we're gonna push through and we're gonna try new things and we're gonna follow through because we said that, or those types of things too. So
Yeah.
I love that story. I just like how you guys were just like out and about and
It's
then just having a
crazy.
good time, and here
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah.
And even the best part too is that you do a podcast and you think like, "Oh gosh, we're so worried about how we're gonna sound, all these things," but really it's
Yeah.
not about us, it's about
Mm-mm.
like sharing a message or being able to talk to other people.
Mhm.
It's not really about us. We
No.
think initially it's like, "Oh gosh, we're starting this thing," like,
Right.
oh,
Right. 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 Right.
intimidating. And then
Right.
you start doing it like you said, and you're like, "Oh, this isn't really about us." Like, people are actually grabbing onto some of the things that we're talking about, and it's
Mhm.
helpful. And then you
Mhm.
start feeling better about being able to be uncomfortable and just saying,
Yeah.
like, "Okay, this isn't about me. I feel like I'm doing the right thing by
Right.
being in this space." So
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a mindset shift for sure.
Yeah. And I think also too, like with the whole, when you were talking about like setting up something with like for your children, and just like with the whole Bitcoin mentality, I think that like a lot of people ask me, I ask people also like, well, what are you doing to teach your children about Bitcoin, or just like, how are you incorporating Bitcoin into your home? And like, while yes, I have the books, we do all these different things, but really, I think the best way someone explained it to me is like, you really have to teach them how to stand, like, be okay with standing out and being
Yeah.
different, and just really just not going with the crowd. And I think that, like, that's really hard, and it feels like it's harder and now than it was, like, maybe than when we were growing up, just because of, like, social media, everything's recorded, people can cancel you, and it's just like, I think that's a tougher thing to deal with, just because, this is kind of, this video is evergreen, like, it can be forever on,
Yeah.
available for your children to see in 30, 50, 100 years, right? So it's just like, that's something I feel like we didn't have to deal with, because like, if I look back at it, like that night that we went out, we had like this great time. Like, if that was recorded and like someone showed that now, I really wouldn't be comfortable, just because I knew that like that was like a phase in my life that it's not like I did anything inappropriate, but
Yeah.
someone would have critiqued it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
it's just like, oh God, some things I do want to be private about, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Oh gosh, I think about that all the time. I'm like, I'm so thankful people didn't have phones like that
Right,
when I was
right,
in
right,
college. You kidding
right,
me? I'm like,
right. It wasn't a record. It wasn't like everything needed to be recorded when we were in college, right? We had
yeah.
phones, but we weren't like, "Oh, it's a fight. Oh, let's record it," you know?
Yeah.
Well, we were just in the moment. We're like, oh, the phone's out.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It was so different back then too. Have you guys had any guests on your podcast? Yeah. And I was just going to say, was there any specific episodes that you've done with any of your guests that you were like, wow, it really changed my thought process on
Yeah.
Bitcoin or
Yeah.
finances or anything
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah, so like we have a new series called Raising Satoshi. And it's just like we haven't, I've just been kind of like building up just the interviews and stuff. So that way when I release them, because I do have an issue with sometimes like I'll go like really hard with it and then I'll get burned out a little bit.
Mhm.
So it's just like I'm just trying to build up a lot of like content, so that way like I have enough to like feed out for months on end. But you
Yeah.
Yeah.
know what I've noticed, which is kind of it's like not what you probably would expect me to say. What's interesting is that what I find with parents who have older children, so like a preteen or a teenager, like depending on when they got into Bitcoin, the kids know about Bitcoin. They're very familiar with it. They know what it is. They can explain it to you very simply, but they're not as interested.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. And then the kids who are like under the preteen, like, that 6 to 10 range, they're
Mhm.
interested. They're trying to learn, they're trying to incorporate kind of different lifestyle views on Bitcoin, more so just teaching them what it means to be private, teaching them what it means, like kind of like the whole sovereignty, freedom aspects of Bitcoin, versus like teaching them how to like use a wallet, or buy something with Bitcoin, or put something in their cold wallet. Just because of like the age difference, I think just with learning.
Yeah.
So I just kind of assumed, I really did assume, and naively, that the people who had the teenagers would just be more interested in Bitcoin. But it's that's not the case. And not to say that they're not into
Yeah.
Bitcoin, but they're not really into Bitcoin as much as their parents.
Mm,
Um,
That's
I think
interesting.
that's
also too, someone did tell me that basically you also have to just kind of let your kids live, right? You don't
Yeah.
want to like force things on them. You don't, especially if they found Bitcoin later in life and their kids were kind of growing up with them. I think it's a little different. Like your 4-year-old would probably know more about Bitcoin or be more interested than maybe your, what is it? How your, like your oldest daughter, right?
yeah. Yeah.
So, do you have twins?
No,
They look like it.
they look like they're
Okay.
twins. Yeah,
Okay.
but they're
Okay.
my oldest is about to be 6, and then
Okay.
so 6, 4, and then we have a 1-year-old.
Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, so it's like you don't even have like that preteen or like that 8 plus,
Yeah.
range. So yeah, but I think also too, I think the biggest thing is just like really understanding what it means to be as a parent, and just that patience.
Yeah.
because it's like you for something that like we're so interested in, you kind of want your children to be so interested in it.
Yeah.
And it's just
Yeah.
like, and I think also too, as we know growing up, your parents can tell you something over and over and over again. And it may seem like to them that you're not paying attention, but you really are paying attention. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how like these parents with preteens, like where they go, maybe in 5, 8 years, how that changes for them.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's very interesting that you shared
Hmm.
that too, Tima, because I do think that when Bitcoin goes to for everybody that understands Bitcoin, when it
Hmm.
gets to that level where we're like freedom, I think
Right.
it doesn't matter what age your kids are at. I think things will all just click now. Oh,
Yes.
mom, dad, you were
Yes.
talking about this
Yes.
forever, like,
Yes.
and now you're always home. Yeah, it's well
Hmm.
because I have Bitcoin and
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
we spend time as a family.
Totally.
So
Right.
I think that's a topic that a lot of people don't talk about enough, but I think it's like it's really important to establish like the roots of like, hey, let me go ahead, um, buy like for us. I'm only gonna speak for like what we do. Like we buy Bitcoin, we put it away,
Right.
and we go with our life. And
Right.
then there's gonna be a day or a time where now we're like always home.
Mhm.
And I think that's what's gonna happen is where everything's gonna click for teenagers.
Hmm.
And let's just say you shared right, they're teenagers in like 5 to 10 years. Now they're
Hmm.
like in college adults, right? But they're going to work and you're not going to work.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
they're gonna be like, dude,
Yeah.
mom, yeah, what's going
Yep.
on here? Like, how come
Yeah.
I'm like slaving, working 2 jobs and I
Right.
went to school and you're chilling at home or you're like,
Yeah.
working on things that add value that you personally love in your life. And then now I think it doesn't matter what level they're at, they're gonna click. If they're younger and you're always home with them, they're like, Mom, Dad, like all my friends, their parents go to work, like, but you're always here with
Mhm.
us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, we have Bitcoin, right?
Yep.
And so
Yeah. Yeah.
True.
it'll all click in time, and that's the thing,
Yes.
right? I think that's a blessing and curse about being early in Bitcoin is
Mhm.
it's a curse because it's like, man, it's not where we want it to be,
Yeah.
Right,
but it's a
right.
blessing because we actually found it earlier before like the
Mhm.
world.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so it is what it is. We're enjoying the journey. We're along for the ride, and we get to talk to you, Tima.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, and I think, also too, like, I saw like, because I like a lot of times, like, when different people have, like, their different, philosophical tweets or whatever, and it's just like, I read somewhere where somebody basically saying that, like, you want your kids to see that journey, right? Like, you want them to see, like, "Oh, I remember when mom and dad were talking about just getting Satoshis and just trying to build and like, oh, we're just getting more Satoshis," and it's just like versus, like, the kid who's just like, "Oh, mom," and again, I'm not saying that this is a right or wrong way, but to see your parents go through that journey and to see, your
Mhm.
parents actually like for you to understand that, hey, they made a lot of sacrifices. They did this,
Yeah.
they did that for us to
Yeah.
have this freedom that we have now. I think is a good journey and it's a good lesson learned. But I do think you're like 100% right, just in terms of like because it's already like, in my opinion, it's definitely more mainstream than it was, obviously 5 years ago than it was 10 years ago,
Oh, for
right?
sure.
Like, mainstream media is talking about it, insurance companies, Fidelity, BlackRock, all these big
Yeah.
names.
Yeah.
But I think that like when it becomes like that mogul that we know that it's going to be, then of course everybody and their mom is going to be like, "Oh, you were talking about Bitcoin? What, you know, tell us
Yeah.
about it, you
Right.
know?" Yeah.
Right. It's all gonna come back.
It'll come full
Mhm.
circle, and until then, like you said, like where we came from in 5 years is 6 years, really, 2020.
Mhm.
We'll just
Yeah.
use 2020 because that's when things started moving for a lot of people.
Right,
So
right.
2020 to now, it's everywhere, right? A lot of people, you most likely have heard of Bitcoin now than
Yes.
prior,
Almost definitely.
pre-2020.
Mhm.
And time is flying. Like, this and I know this, right? Like,
It's
time
so
is
fast.
flying.
Yeah.
So in 4 years, it'll be 2030. Like, it's gonna be like everywhere. It's gonna be,
Yes. Yeah.
and so I'm not worried about it. I'm like, time's gonna do its thing. But at the end of the time, we need to take advantage of this dip that
Yeah.
we're at right
Yes.
now.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You were watching this podcast, you are not late to Bitcoin. You are super early. All
You're
right.
so early. It's
Mhm.
also interesting because, like, the neat thing about going to conferences is and it seems to, like, always play out this way. Like, when we were at the 2022 Miami conference, like, price was pumping, like, "Oh, yeah, this is great," right? And this is, like, when we were
Cheers.
still kinda learning and, now I don't really care about the price anymore, right? I like dips. I love dips.
Yeah.
But like as soon as the conference was like about to end, the price was like tanking. I was like, what is this? And like literally the same thing happened like when people first got to Vegas. It was like price is pumping. Oh, we're feeling good. Like we're in Vegas. And then as the conference ended, it's like, nope, I'm a dump.
Yeah.
That's just great though. Bitcoin does its own
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Like that's what it does its own. It doesn't care if you're in a good mood. It
Nope.
doesn't care if it's a conference. It
Nope.
doesn't care if it's Christmas time, New
Mhm.
Year's. Like it's just doing its own thing. And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is Bitcoin. And
Yeah. Well, you said true freedom and wealth
Mhm.
are most easily obtained with Bitcoin. So kind of
Mhm.
what led to that conclusion for you?
Yeah. Well, oh my God, so many things, so many books, so many like
Yeah.
YouTube. I call it YouTube University. What what really led to it is that again, I know there's outliers to everything, right? So like that's why I always try to like say that. I don't, I know that, you can have someone comment and say, "Well, I've made money on stocks." Yeah, you probably did, right? But the true fact of the matter is the everyday common person is not making that much money off of stocks and different investments like that unless you're using large sums, you're kind of like on the strategic plan. But even that, even if you are making money, it's so much manipulation within
yes,
that game, right?
yeah,
And
hmm
I think that like and I know people like I personally when I'm speaking about Bitcoin I don't tend to, what's the word, like recommend Bitcoin books at first. I tend to recommend books to help people understand money because I want them to understand that, yes, like, okay, you can get this real estate house, buy this real estate, flip this house, but it's just like, just look at like what your output is in, look at
yeah,
how much you're going to put up, and then look at your returns, and then just compare that to Bitcoin, right?
yeah,
And
Mhm.
so, like, that's what kinda led to, like, the true freedom and wealth because, I remember in my 20s, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be a real estate mogul. I'm gonna have 10 properties," and it's just like I think about, like, the headache and, like, I did, like, kinda do a little real estate investing, and it was just, like, the headache that came with it, the cost that came with it. I wasn't prepared.
Totally.
I really didn't
Yeah.
have the proper setup, and it was just, like, I was back into this spinning cycle of just trying to figure out life. So, I just feel like it's probably the easiest and it's now granted, I will say this, that, like, is there manipulation in terms of, like, BlackRock being able to buy larger sums of Bitcoin? Yes, but
mhm,
that's why we really promote for retail and the everyday person to get in because it's like now that like the big wigs are in the space, I call them suits. Now that the suits are in the space, you don't want it to become what it wasn't intended for, right? And I just think that with true freedom and just like true wealth, like I don't want to do something that's going to be manipulated. I don't want to like put my money into where you're only giving me a 5% return and then I know that your CEO is getting $1 million bonus or, there's manipulation in terms of, oh, hey, we're going to put more money into this over here. They're
Mhm.
manipulating, it's like so many different variables that come with that manipulation, especially like when
mhm,
you start to look at the NASDAQ, you start to look at like, well, who sits on the board of what? Oh, they also sit on the board of like the FDA. Oh, they sit on the board of this. And you connect all these dots. And it's just like, oh my God, they're all in the same system. They're all in the same game and you're not going to win. And that's why I truly promote Bitcoin because there's no middleman. There's nobody
yeah,
saying, oh yeah, go pay Sailor to shill Bitcoin. No,
mhm,
right? Like it's just a true like principle of I can invest in this and I don't have to worry about a CEO or
yeah,
some venture capitalist or, a different government entity coming in and saying, "Oh no, we don't like this. Let's push the money over here."
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
so good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
No, but I really liked what you were talking about, the true freedom, and it's just yeah, the way
Yeah.
you explained
And
it
and
is
that's
is
something that I didn't
absolutely
learn in school
true.
because I honestly
Um,
I went to school for I went to like I had a business degree and like I did finance when I got out of school. So even have like you could say I went from traditional to untraditional as well. Like when you're being taught like financial stuff and like you're being taught like all these different terms, you realize not at the time, but now that I know, I was like being programmed, right? Like I was being programmed to
Yeah.
believe this S&P market. I was being programmed to believe that these different, like you were talking
Yeah.
about earlier with the different, like the Roth, the IRA, like all these different things were like great. And oh, put all this money into your 401k and set it up this way. And it's just like, again, I'm referencing like this age group of us now. Like, of course, the boomers, they're in a totally different
Mhm.
predicament, right? But it's like that doesn't exist
Oh yeah.
anymore. Those type of plans don't exist anymore. Like the pension plans that like our parents,
Right.
their friends, or
Yeah.
different relatives have are long gone. Um, so it just like when you start to see that and you really start to understand that, it's like I just wanted to like, as we say, opt out of that system. Because you're never gonna win in the sense of like true freedom. Like I don't, and also too, I don't think that it's not that you can't make money in that system. I don't want to say that because obviously people have, but it's just like think about that percentage,
Yeah.
how small that percentage is
Yeah.
of the people who have the money that way.
Mm.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. A professor teaching business. Like, most likely, there's so many business teachers in school right now that are
Exactly.
teaching business that never even own a
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Let's just
Right.
go back to, like, the
Yeah.
APCs, right? Like, because they're most likely they've been running a business, there's no
No,
way they're gonna be like, "Let me go teach
no.
kids about business." Like, there's no way. There's no way. There's
No.
no way. So, it's just like, dude, everything that if you just look at everything, like, the Bitcoin just, like, you just see everything through a different lens, and that lens is very clear, and you're just like, "Whoa, that does not make sense. Whoa, that doesn't make sense."
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, "Oh, man, like, let me just do more digging." And then that's where you're, like, really going down the rabbit hole. And then when you're going down the rabbit hole, it's like my favorite saying is like, and one of my,
Mhm.
our previous guest, Jordan on here,
Yep.
"Hey, once you see it, you can't unsee it."
Mhm.
And so it's like now and then now we're walking around with truth, right? And people are like, "What are you're weird. You're a conspiracy theory." I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm weird,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
you're sleepwalking, right?" But, like, I don't know. It's just like I
Yeah.
don't you have to like stand up and just be like, dude, I'm going on the freeway every day back to, work. I'm like sitting at this desk. I'm like, where am I going? Like I'm working hard. My money's not going anywhere. Like, my home, it's so hard to buy a home.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, look at around you and just ask like, why? What's
Yeah.
going on? How can I change? How can I pivot? How
Yeah.
can I figure things out? Like, be a solution seeker and think for yourself, but nobody's like, no one wants to do that because, thinking for
It's
yourself and
hard.
critical thinking
It
is
is hard.
kind of hard,
And you're kind of like I don't want to use the word term black sheep, but it's just like you're questioned. Like, oh, why do you think that? Or why do you believe that? Like my mom says that you can tell me the sky's blue and I'll go out and be like, no, it's not blue, because it's just like, we've been told so many different things that we just automatically believe it. We just automatically think that that's the truth, right? And I don't want to also say that like I'm living my life in fear. Like I'm not living my life in fear. Like I'm still living my life. Like I'm not some conspiracy theorist where I'm like, oh, I have like the sheet over me and I can't go outside and I'm afraid to do things. No, I'm still living my life, even though I know that the air quality is bad, the food is bad, and all these different things. But it's just like at the same time, I do feel kind of a sense of relief knowing that I'm not trying to like my husband and us work until we're 65, 70, just so that we can retire, right? And then it's
Yeah.
the craziest concept when you think about it. It's just like you're retiring at an age where it's just like you really should just be like hanging out with your family. And by the time you're retiring, you're like tired from working all those years and grinding out that it's just like you don't.
Yeah.
We can't do anything.
I want to retire
Right.
Yeah.
young. I
I
want to be
Right.
able
know.
to do things while I feel
We
good, right? I want to be doing things, while me and
Exactly.
my wife can like move around and like play with our kids. I'm not like,
Yes.
hey, over here, Johnny.
Yeah. And I just think that, like, with
What?
the way that just in terms of everything, when you start going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, especially, like, it starts to, like, develop in your life in terms of, like, food, health, lifestyle,
Mhm.
everything just encompassing of just when you think about, like, the divine person, right? You just think about, like, all these different elements that make up you as a woman or as a man. And it's just like, I feel like
Yeah.
Bitcoin, and here's the other thing. I know that people say like Bitcoin changed you or changes me or whoever, but it's just like, honestly, it was you as a person, right? Like, you as a thinker, you as saying, you know what,
Yes.
this system isn't working, something's not right. Let's take this chance, let's do this and figure this out. And I think Bitcoin was just that tool to help us go to that next phase. But it's ultimately like, I think someone said before, like,
Mhm.
Bitcoiners, like they were always Bitcoiners even before they became Bitcoiners. Like, just because
Yeah.
Okay.
to
Yeah.
take that risk, and to
Yeah.
say like, this way of the system is wrong and then this way is correct. That's a big risk because 95% of the world is saying you're wrong.
Yeah. But let's
Mhm.
just say we are wrong though, right? Let's just say we are wrong.
Yes.
So we're still gonna
Right.
work ourselves to death, just like everyone
Regardless.
else,
Yeah.
regardless. So like, I'd rather take that chance of being, of being
Being
right.
right.
And it's
Yeah.
like that asymmetrical bet where it's like, dude, just like lift this. We just went to the moon, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think like I'm gonna
Yeah.
take that bet every time. I don't want to be like everyone else. And I'm not like purposely trying to stand out, but I'm just saying like now I'm gonna think for myself. And like
Yeah.
it looks like I need to take this road with my family. And if I could bring other people along and educate them, like I'm gonna try to,
Mhm.
because there's enough for all of us to win. I always repeat that on Twitter. Like, dude, there's so much for all of us to win. There's a
Mhm.
printer. Right now there's a printer, right?
Yeah.
And so we're not all winning though, but we can all win with Bitcoin and stuff. So
Yeah.
what I would love to ask you though, Tima, is like, so what mistake do you see people making over and over, like when it comes to money?
So like when it comes to like fiat money or Bitcoin like money.
When it comes to both, like,
Yeah.
but and
Yeah.
probably what would you say?
I was thinking fiat, and then how can we relate it to how, like, maybe it transfers
So
over?
Yeah,
I can speak
that's
on both. So I think with fiat money, I think the biggest mistake people make is just really not budgeting. Honestly, not really truly seeing where you are. And trust me, budgets keep me up at night. They really do. And I think it's a good idea to budget because regardless if you're in Bitcoin or not, you really need to see like where you stand in terms of your cash flow,
mhm,
where bills are, what's coming out, what's coming in. And no matter what, you want to be able to say, hey, look, this is what we have, this is what we don't have. Just because I think a lot of people get into financial trouble because they don't budget. And a lot of people weren't taught how to
yeah,
budget. I don't know.
Right.
yeah, exactly.
I don't remember a budgeting class when I was in high school or college. It might be
Yeah,
different now, but
and that's like
it's
101.
literally 101. So think that like you have to have that baseline and that foundation. And then you can say, okay, well, look, we have this disposable, we have this extra cash. We can do this with it or we cannot do this with it. Right. And I think that also just because a lot of people are in credit card debt, I do notaries, part time sometimes. And
Nice.
the amount of people that I see doing HELOCs to pay off credit cards is like, my God. You know what I mean? Because
Insane.
I can see their financials like information and I look. I'm not gonna lie, I look.
Hey, stop peeking. Hey, mind your own business over there, Tima. Mind your own business over there.
She was like,
Just take it and
I'm like,
let them sign it.
you know, but and then honestly, people talk to me and I'm like, you're just I mean, I already see your business, but go ahead, tell me more of your business.
Yeah. And they're like telling you, they're like opening up to you. They feel like they're having a
Yeah.
moment, and you're like, "Oh, I already
Yeah.
saw them way over here."
I hope none of those people watch this. But now but no, but it's just like I think that's where what I see the most is like credit card debt and just like overspending. And I think
Mhm.
overspending is the attribute of not knowing how to budget properly and just really understanding your cash flow. Um, I think
Yeah.
when it comes to Bitcoin, honestly, the biggest mistake, I don't want to say it's a mistake. It's not a mistake but I think that like if you really kind of done your education on Bitcoin and you understand the purpose of Bitcoin, I know that it's really hard for people to understand the concept of spending it. But it's just like in order to create this medium of exchange, you got to spend Bitcoin. And I'm not saying like spend a
Yeah.
thousand dollars. Just buy something, that's 20 sats or I mean, I don't know what's 20 sats,
Yeah.
but I'm just giving an example. Like use your Bitcoin
Yeah.
accordingly that you're comfortable with and then just replenish it, right? Because I think that like the hodl culture is fine. Like obviously we're all hodling. However, I think
Yeah.
that you do have to kind of get into the aspect of creating this circular economy because it's just like if we're all hodling, then how is it truly going to become a form of money if we're not spending it? You
Yeah.
know, you spend your fiat, but you also are saving fiat. Like if you have like
No, we
a
ain't.
cash.
No, we ain't.
Yeah.
No, we ain't. We ain't saving no
Right.
fiat. We ain't
I
saving no
I don't
fiat.
know about other people, but I'm just saying, like, some people.
Yeah, in general, yeah.
So I think that I wouldn't say it's a mistake. I just feel like I wish that people kind of would use it more versus just like,
Mhm.
yeah, hodl it, hodl, 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 but also use it more. Support your local vendors who accept Bitcoin.
Yes.
Buy merch, buy books,
Yeah.
buy things.
Yeah, I actually struggled with that in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning because he was like, "Oh, we're putting this towards Bitcoin." I'm like, "Cool, cool. This is awesome. I'm glad we're saving. Like I'm pro saving. When do we use
No.
this though? Like what do we,
Mhm.
because we have 3 kids. Like we're, always trying to figure out like where, do we need are we upgrading our space? Like, just things like that we've talked about. And that maybe every couple goes through that. And so it was definitely a thing where I was like, so we just hold on to this forever? Like, what do you,
Right.
And so
I
it changed obviously through these
Right.
conversations. I'm not putting him down at all. I'm just saying those were the things that I was trying to navigate on my own as he would share things with me like, hey, we're putting this money into
yeah.
Bitcoin and this is like, we're going to keep on holding on to it. And I was like, cool.
Yeah.
But then, when it shot up to in the hundred thousands, and I was
Mhm.
like, okay, this is cool.
This is better. I like this.
Yeah, I like this. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just funny. It was a different mindset because I wasn't fully immersed, right? So it was just me trying to kind of gather information as it was being shared with me,
Mhm.
and I was trusting it, but I was also questioning parts of it as
Yeah,
well.
which is healthy. I think
Yeah.
I think like a lot of Bitcoiner couples are having these conversations in the background, and that's why we wanted to have this podcast because like there's got to be other people out there that are having the same
Yeah.
conversations that we're having. Like, hey, are we gonna spend some lit? Are we gonna can we pull some out for a trip or
Mhm.
family things? Like, what are we gonna do? And so I think it's healthy to have these conversations. And then also I see both sides
Yeah.
too though. I see both sides because like hodling is like, where it's gonna go, right? So you're like, okay, cool. Like, if let's just say there's no
Right.
Bitcoin, let's just say there's no Bitcoin at
Right.
all, and let's just say you're in the fiat, like, what are you doing with your fiat? You're also saving it, right?
Mhm.
And the goal is to save more than what you
Right.
spend, even if we're just in the fiat world, right? No Bitcoin doesn't even exist, so you're still doing that in that world as well. And then once you learn it, you're like, I don't want it. They're just debasing it,
Right.
right? But going back to Bitcoin, like I see both, I understand both sides of the fence where someone's like, man, I'm just gonna hold because I know where this is going. And then when it gets to my whatever number it may be, like, okay,
Mhm.
cool. Well, let me now I'm free. Like I'll spend,
Right.
Bitcoin
Yeah.
freely. And then I also see where you're talking about, which is actually something I actually am slowly coming to is where because we've had so many Bitcoiners on air that are like, hey, spend your Bitcoin and punish. So one of the things that I'm gonna start doing that I'm really pumped about is, I'm just gonna start asking people like I'm gonna go to the gas station. I'm like, hey, you guys accept Bitcoin here? Like, hey, you at the Target, hey, you guys accept Bitcoin here? Like, just to get people's wheels turning. And then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, like, man, I hear it on TV, I hear it from my friend, now I hear it from people that are in real life. I
Yeah.
think it really
Would be
that it
impactful.
that's what do you that's a way to like stimulus things and like get people thinking a little bit. And so that's one of my favorite things now. I'm gonna just run out and just be like, "Hey, let's accept
I
Bitcoin."
know. You gotta go in the Cash App honestly does like a really good job of like just trying to show you who like your local vendors are or merchants that accept Bitcoin. So if you go into the Cash App and you go into like that Bitcoin area and you scroll down to the bottom, there's like a map and it says like who accepts Bitcoin. So that's like a way to start. But I think that like that concept of spending your Bitcoin was also hard for me. You go through this
Mhm.
Bitcoin journey and it's just like, no, I would never spend it. But it's just like, all right, I'm gonna buy this $20 hoodie. I'm gonna buy this $50,
Yeah.
sweatshirt. I'm gonna, pay $15 for these books and these, stuffed animals. And it's just like once it did take some time, but it's just like I
Mhm,
think that like when you look at other areas, like so when you look at like Africa, you look at also too, I think really Nigeria and Kenya,
mhm,
like they're really creating like these like mini circular economies. And then you look at El Salvador, right? And it's just like, well,
mhm,
I will also say that, like, the perception, I think sometimes of what's going on in El Salvador is that everyone is accepting and spending Bitcoin, and I don't think that's true, right? But at the same time, it's definitely a Bitcoin country. That it's very much pro Bitcoin. People know about it. You can go to a vendor and mention Bitcoin. They may say they accept it, they may not, which is a stepping stone. But I think that like it's
Yeah.
just really hard when you first get into Bitcoin. It's just really hard to grasp that because you're taught that this is like this like immeasurable asset and there's only 21 million and it will never be any more. And you're like, why would I want to spend that? Right. And it's
Mhm.
just like, but then
mhm.
you think like, well, if I don't spend it, how are we going to defeat this terrible fiat system,
Mhm.
you know? So it's
Yep.
kind of like you got to go through the motions and um spend what you feel comfortable with. That's the best. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's gotta go through its
Yeah.
growing pains too, right? It has to like, it's been going through growing pains, but I think people accepting it more and, just understanding it more, I think, like what Anthony was saying, just even asking those
Right.
questions like, "Hey, you guys accept
Yeah.
Bitcoin?"
Yeah.
And, that's I love the idea of actually looking on Cash App though. I mean, it got my wheels turning about how we can start, like, incorporating that because even our kids they watch us, you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think, like I think they learn a lot from what they see and what we
Right.
do rather than what we're telling them, right? And so I think that would be really cool for them. They've heard the words Bitcoin. They've heard obviously they know we have a podcast, so they're they're hearing that. So I think even taking them to these places, that would, be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is a different
Yeah.
money," like
Mhm.
it's just
Yeah.
yeah, gets them
It's so
thinking.
funny because I'm gonna show you. So like my daughter, she thinks that this is Satoshi. She knows that these are her friends. So this is supposed to be
This
Satoshi.
is so
And
cute.
this is supposed to be Hal Finney. So she knows that this is Satoshi and she has like shirts that have this character on it. So she's like, I want to wear my
Uh,
Satoshi shirt. So it's just like even though she doesn't understand the concept of Bitcoin, the fact that she's able to recognize and just like your kids are, the word itself, right?
Yeah,
Satoshi, Bitcoin. Like I just think it's like just stepping stones to like these amazing thinkers that, are just going to dominate their, not so much their world, but just their environment, right?
yeah,
yeah.
They'll definitely be, I feel like, not so much outsiders, but they'll definitely stand out from the crowd. In the sense
Yeah.
of that, especially like, I know you guys like, your values and stuff, and I love that. Like just when it comes to like church and God and just like to
yeah,
encompass this like sovereignty aspect because that's also kind of been lost. And you think about
Mhm.
like where we are in today's society, right? Like what you bring up church, you bring up God, like, oh no, like you can't talk,
Yeah.
people are uncomfortable talking about those things. And it's just like, when did that happen? Like,
right.
Yeah.
why are we uncomfortable talking about this? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I went to Catholic school, so it's just like I had like religion classes, and like
yeah.
even if you don't believe, the stories itself are interesting, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
So
yeah,
No, I
I agree.
it's just like I just think that like as a society, I don't think that like I don't want to also be like, oh, it's doom and gloom and everything's just terrible. No, but I think that as a society, I think that like cancel culture I hate. I think that like, the idea of just like sticking up for what you believe in, there's you shouldn't get mad at me if I don't agree with something. As long as I'm
yeah.
respectful
Correct,
about it and I'm not nasty and I'm not mean to you about it, then that's just what I think, and that's just what I feel. So
correct.
Yeah.
it's like I shouldn't be canceled because I don't do this or I don't agree
Agree.
with this, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
a
No,
whole
I
nother
that
topic.
the being Yeah, being able to talk to somebody and disagreeing, like, that's
Yeah.
adulting. Like,
Yeah.
that's healthy, and then, like and it's cool because then I always see it, like, whenever someone disagrees with me, I'm always like, "Hmm, like, where's their angle? Like, where does this thought process come from?" Like, I'm actually interested to see them kinda defend whatever it is that they're sharing, and then maybe, like, I'm not gonna be closed-minded, I'm gonna be open-minded, and, like, maybe, like, they know something I don't know,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool, like, that's interesting," and honestly, at the end of the day, though, Tima, like, I agree with everyone, like, even when they're wrong, like, I just agree with them, and I'm like, "Okay,"
Right.
um, like, "Nah," but, 'cause there's no reason to be, like,
Yeah.
confrontational, there's no reason to be like,
Yeah.
let's headbutt or, like, "Let's get the last word
Get a
in."
debate going.
Yeah, and I'm like
Yeah.
when they're wrong, I'll be like and then I'll hear them out, and I'm like, "Oh, no."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, they're wrong
Right.
for that," you
Right.
know? Like, but I'm
Yeah.
not gonna, like I'm not gonna put them down, I'm not gonna condemn 'em, I'm not
No.
gonna criticize them. No, like, there's no reason for
And I think
that,
that's also
right?
a thing that, like, sometimes, in the Bitcoin space, like, you asked a question earlier about just like, some things that maybe, that's not so much a mistake, but just like lessons learned. And I think that, like, I don't know, you guys have seen it on Twitter where it's like, it was like huge, huge arguments over knots and core and well, river and strike and who said this and who said that. And it's just like we're literally creating the same environment that we complain about when it comes to the fiat system.
Yeah.
Like you're not always going to agree with what a person says. Like there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of people who I follow on X that I don't agree with some stuff they say, but I still appreciate some of their
Mhm.
posts. I still appreciate them as like
Yeah.
this consistency with their posts and you know what I mean? I think there's still like a level of respect that you can still have for someone even if you don't agree with them. But I think also too when it comes to Bitcoin, it's like sometimes you get too much in like that maxing standpoint where, you can push someone away because you're just like, oh, you have what? You did what? Like, oh, don't ever mention this other coin. And, I was reading this post on X today where a young lady who attended the conference, she was saying that like, she really enjoyed the conference and how in previous years when she attended, I think the one in like 2024 or something, um, then someone asked her what she did, and she's like, "Oh, I'm a developer for another coin." And they were like, "What? Why are you here?" La, 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 la. And they just kind of, trashed her. But it's just like that's her job, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
And
like
she's like, I don't
what?
know. It's just I'm getting
What?
paid to do this.
like,
Like I
sup
support
Yeah,
Bitcoin though. Like
yeah,
I know. It's silly. It's
yeah.
silly. Today we had, sorry, Dan.
No, go ahead.
Today we had, I was talking to Lindsay Stamp, on some, we went back and forth on a post real
yeah,
quick, and then Jami, 'cause it was like, we were talking about just what you were talking about. And like, at the end of the day, hard money is hard
yeah,
money, right? And so if you're like a gold bug and you're like Bitcoin, like at the end of the day, you have the same goal. Like
Yeah.
you're on the same path. Like it's the same
Same
yeah,
thing.
team.
It's the same team, same
right,
jersey, same
yeah,
suit, same
yeah,
everything. And you can even add like silver if we really want to be honest in there, right? Like those three right there, like you're on the same team whether you're for it or against it. Like,
Hmm.
and then yeah, I don't know. I just think that we need to like just, hey, you're losing the plot. Like, let's get back over here and it's orange versus green. It's fiat versus
yeah.
Bitcoin. And that's it,
Good.
right? Like and and if you have another job and stuff, like people who have different jobs, like whether it's DoorDash, whether it's like you're a janitor, whether it doesn't matter whatever your job is, whether you're a loan officer, agent, like you do whatever you got to do to like provide for your family at the end of the day, because
Yeah.
we're all just trying to figure
Yeah,
this out right now in an economy that's forcing us to like work harder, like
Yeah.
right,
just figure it
right.
out. Whether that's the stock market, like you mentioned
Yeah,
earlier, however you can do it, like not knocking it. If you can make money about like that, like dude, do it. Do you like all for you.
people I know that make they like do options trading and then like that's their job and then whatever they make they buy Bitcoin with it, right? Like what's the difference between someone who's going out like you said door dashing or someone like me who does like notaries? Like okay, I'm still notarizing a document that we all cringe at because we know that what real estate is, we know what the mortgage is, right? The same
Yeah.
time, it's
Yeah.
like I'm
Yeah.
still making money off of this system, that I'm putting into, that I want to buy Satoshis with. So, I just think that sometimes with Bitcoiners, just like we have to like kind of step back because it's easy to also think that everybody's in Bitcoin sometimes too. Like when you're on, X,
Yeah.
right? Like you're like, oh,
Yeah.
this is my community, and then you get out in the real world and it's just like, what? Oh no.
Yeah.
Um,
You're like, "Oh, no one thinks
what?
like this."
You're like, what? And especially when it comes to like the homeschool thing. So with the homeschool thing too, with homeschool and Bitcoin, to me, like those are like kind of cohesive terms. But it's just like what I find that like I deal with when I tell like, oh, my husband and we decided we're gonna homeschool our daughter, I'm staying home, I like left corporate world, all these different things. The first thing people ask me is one, like, oh, what about her social skills? And I'm like, "Hmm, honey, if you've met this
She's fine.
she's more social than anybody you've been around. And then two, it's just like, oh, so when are do you miss work? Do you want to go back to work? And I'm just like, no,
No,
no.
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 Like I don't when I
Yeah.
tell you like I was in like that whole like government contracting aspect of work where it's just like because like in the area where I live, it's like mostly like federal workers, you're a contractor for the government. You're doing something on that aspect of like, you hear about like the FDA, USAID, all these different, departments. And
Yeah.
it's just like, I don't miss one thing about that. Nothing.
Yeah.
It's nothing I miss
No.
about that. And especially being able that my husband's giving me this like amazing gift of being able to stay home. And it's just like, I don't know, unless like you're just, and there are moms like this, so there's no shade. There are some moms who like
Yeah.
to go to work, right? But I don't know many who said to me, oh, yeah, I just really enjoyed going back to work when my child was 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
I haven't
Well,
met
and
I haven't met one mom that
No,
yeah.
said that.
Yeah.
no.
I haven't. And if they're saying it, it's but they're like, "Oh, no, they're always like
It's
sad that
not.
they're going back to
Yeah,
work. I've never seen one that was like, "Yes,
Ugh.
going back."
Alrighty. Can't wait to
yeah.
clock in.
Let's go get
And you know
Tima.
how quickly I and like think about how quickly they replaced you,
Yep,
Tima.
yep,
Like
Yeah.
yep.
Boom.
they found a replacement so
So fast.
quick.
Yep.
But you know who's not gonna replace you is your daughter
Yep.
and and you as your mother,
Yep.
right? So it's like that's the most important thing. And truthfully, and I'll speak on like on our faith too, like I really feel like God intentionally made us different, man and woman, and wanted us to be
Yes,
this way. He wanted
yes,
us to be with
yes,
our kids. He wanted us to take
yes,
time to be developing our
yes,
families and pouring into our
yes,
children.
Yeah.
Because when a woman is of faith or has a strong moral compass, and you don't have to have a faith, but this is my belief. But if you have a really strong moral compass, your house runs
yes,
differently. Your house runs the way it's
yes,
supposed to.
Mhm.
And it like gives me chills because I've like really um feel very convicted about this because when I'm right, our house is right. Like when I'm with like in my faith or when I'm like, feeling like our obviously our house isn't always clean. That's like no. That's not attainable at the moment. But, like, when you are strong in who you are, you're really helping make sure that your husband is where he needs to be and you're at where you need to be, and your kids are where they need to be at so that our house just
mhm,
runs
Mhm.
in a positive
yes,
way.
Mhm.
It's not perfect, and we're gonna have, obviously, our ups and
yes,
downs, of
right,
course, but I just feel very convicted about that. I've always felt like I feel sad that this whole feminism movement
yeah.
happened because it's
You
like,
you think about
Yeah.
it makes me
Well, it
frustrated.
had to
it,
happen. It had to happen because the money was getting debased. So they're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, we need to go and, keep this money going. Let's go make this income." And but deep down, they're just like, "No, I'm not trying to leave
right,
home." But then that's what was like, so how do we
yes,
encourage it? Oh, boss lady. Oh, bad bitch. Oh, go do your thing. Go make more money than your
yep,
husband and go prove
right,
him wrong. Like all of these like narratives, it was really in the background, it's like the money is
yeah,
just getting debased.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and it's just
And you
like
think about like the marketing that came with that, right? Like if you look back like in the 70s, like someone posted how like they started doing those magazines, like the Women's Something World magazine and like what they would show as the image of a woman. previous to like what they would show the image of a woman like in the 40s and the 50s. And it's just like, I tell people I work for my husband and it's like I have so much pride in being able to like cook him meals, send him off with like home cooked meals. I'm cooking home cooked meals almost every day. And it's just like when this obviously the person who I am today was not really kind of like the person that I was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, right? But I think that's also because like a lot of times you find it like this whole like push to have this like, oh, this independent woman, I'm gonna make my own money and I don't need a man type of aspect. And my cousin, Maine, like we both kind of went through this like transition of like, where you're like, oh no, that's really stupid, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I hate when people say I don't need a man. I'm like, I need him. What are
Yeah.
you
what are
talking
you
about?
saying? And like sometimes we'll like send each other like different like texts where it's just like, you see this guy doing like this job where like just for example, like just think about like a New York City bridge or, like
Uh-huh.
up in the air and it's just like, would you really want to do that? Would you really want
Yeah.
to do that? And the answer is no. You know what I mean? And it's just like I just, I think that the agenda just with like this again right? Like outliers. I know there's outliers, right? However, it's an agenda push, it's a program push, to separate families. Like families aren't supported anymore. It's just like they support more single. They want you single, not having kids, not doing this because it's
Yep.
just like you said, the debasement of the dollar is also like the debasement of the family, you know? You
Oh
Mhm.
know?
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Um
yeah.
It's it's wild. It's
Yeah.
yeah,
it's hard. It's really tough
yeah.
too. I know.
Yeah.
And then I was just curious, like being new to the X community, like what is it like for a female in the Bitcoin space, just because I'm fairly new and obviously you've been, researching more and been to Bitcoin conferences. Like what has that been like
I
for
think
you?
the transition of just like women in Bitcoin and just the, more women like coming into Bitcoin, I think it's just phenomenal. I honestly, I feel very comfortable. I think that like, as we kind of like this journey that we've been on, being that you're newer, I think that you're going to get super welcomed. I think that you're getting a lot of love. Even, when Lindy, shouted, yeah, I was like, yes, like, and I think that there's also kind of like, I stopped saying that there weren't enough women in Bitcoin because I used to say that, but there are a lot of women in Bitcoin. It's just that like our focus is different, right? So like, like you're a mom of three, I'm a mom of one, you're home, you're an educator. Like I'm becoming an educator, right? So it's just like sometimes we don't have that freedom or in the sense of freedom to kind of go to this conference for 3 days, right? Because you're in the
Mhm.
home or you're at work or you're
Right.
doing something else where
Yeah.
only one parent can go, right? So I think that like now that it's like a lot more um flexibility in the sense of like what X does, because like even if you're not able to attend the conference, like you can post, you can see things, right? So, and then you also have like some really great women that are just kind of like leading the space that are, making it super comfortable for women to like ask certain questions because I think that they're, I don't, I'm like you, where I believe that there's a difference between a man and a woman. And I think that like things that we relate on and things that are like are comfortable to us or things that we can kind of resonate with are different from men, right? So it's like, I run a local DMV Women in Bitcoin meetup. So it's like when we have this,
Oh,
yeah. So when we have this meetup, and I do it with a PubKey. So when we have it, it's you find that the conversations are more so like about your experiences. Like, well, how did you find it, or what did you do, or what coin are you? I mean, what wallet are you suggesting? Like, we want to hear these different stories and I think that like that's
mhm.
like the comforting aspect of having more women coming, more like vocalizing about Bitcoin, just because like we can resonate and relate differently than them. Um, like I think it's great. I think that like the journey, and also too, what I noticed with this current conference, they had a lot of women speakers. They had a lot of women.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. I did see
hmm
that.
Yeah.
So good.
So
I did see that.
yeah, it's we're coming
Yeah.
into the States and I feel like we're also showing the different aspects of a woman. Like it's they support families. Like they want the man and wife. They want to show this Bitcoin babies. Like,
Mhm.
I like that aspect of the Bitcoin community.
Yeah,
Mm.
totally,
Mhm.
totally. Well, I love your mindset, Tima, so much and just what you've been sharing. Is there anything like a small tidbit or advice that you would like to leave us, our audience with?
Yeah, I think that, just like meet people where they are when it comes to just like life and Bitcoin. I think that like, versus trying to push something down or, maybe if they aren't in agreement with you, just try to like meet them where they are because unfortunately and fortunately, there's so many ways that you can get into Bitcoin, even though I don't agree with all the ways. I think that like just trying to get them to where you can meet them at some point and then you gradually lead them into more of a self-custody aspect of Bitcoin, I think is an easier way than just telling them, "No, that's wrong."
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
love
really
that.
good.
That's a great advice for everybody for
Yeah.
sure. And where can people connect
All
with
right.
you?
So everything is Jump Out Girls. So we're on YouTube, Jump Out Girls. I'm not that active on Instagram, but we do have a Jump Out Girls page on there. TikTok, Jump Out Girls. Facebook, Jump Out Girls. And then obviously, like if they wanted to email us, it's info@jumpoutgirls.
Alrighty.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. And everyone, thank you so much for listening. And we hope to see you all on
Yep.
the moon.
Bye, guys.